Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the From Adversity to Abundance podcast. I am your host, Jamie Bateman, and today I'm thrilled to have with us Maureen McCann of Spartan Invest. Maureen is one of the co-founders of Spartan Invest. Maureen, how are you doing today?
Jamie, it's such a pleasure to be here. So excited because I love the title and I've got something to share with your listeners that I think would just be inspiring and give them hope.
Absolutely. Sounds great. I know you've made the leap from W-2 to entrepreneur, and so we're going to dive into that. And I know it wasn't all rainbows and butterflies, and I know you've had some ups and downs. So I'm excited to dive into that in a bit. But for the listener out there who hasn't heard of you, who are you and what are you up to today?
So first and foremost, I'm a super mom of three incredible kids, 16, 15, and 12. So that's my number one job in the world. So CEO of my house.
I'm sorry, I've got two teenagers and I just can't imagine a third, but man,
Yep.
kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, they were my inspiration and continue to be my inspiration to keep being the role model that I want for them to see and look up to. So it was because of them I became who I am today. So first and foremost, super mom of three amazing kids. Yeah. I am one of the co-founders of Spartan Invest and Atlas Rental Property. I am an avid gym rat. You can find me working out in the gym anytime. And yoga is something else that I really love too, to kind of get that mindset straight, right?
Sure.
And I honestly just love building a business, and just super excited to be here and to share with you guys who I am, what I do, and how I got here.
Love it. And we won't dive in too much yet because we will later, but what does your business do and who do you work with?
Yeah, so we are, if you guys have ever heard the term turnkey rental property. So in short, here's what we do. We buy distressed assets, we renovate them, we place a qualified resident in the property. We sell that asset to an investor who wants to build a portfolio of turnkey rental properties. So to build long-term generational wealth, and then we do the ongoing management for our clients.
Love it. You got that down. I need to do a better job of with my elevator pitch, but I'll work on that after the episode. So Maureen, tell us, again, we touched on it. It hasn't been all easy. It hasn't been easy for you the whole time, as far as, like you said, being a mom or starting a business. Let's dive into your backstory and focus on some of the adversity that you've been through. And the point here is to pull out lessons learned for the listener so that we can take some of the principles and lessons that you've learned and apply them in our own lives and take some inspiration from your story. So where would you like to start?
I'll start back where I decided to invest in myself, which when I was thinking with my scarce mindset, I was thinking about what it was going to cost me. And what I have learned is I made that transition, that big leap over that abyss from scarcity mindset to abundance mindset. And it really, where that leap took place was when I had decided that I had gone to my first seminar. Actually, it had been several, but this is the one that I decided that I was actually going to take action. And, if you guys have ever been to a seminar, there's like the 3-day build up and you finally get to the third day and it's like, you can't do this without them. And so you're just going to have to invest in yourself and pay the money that they're asking you to pay to get and receive the education that you're looking for. And this was, I don't really remember the year. I want to say it was at least 16, 17 years ago. Okay. And I was at the Robert Allen Millionaire Next Door event. And came down to that third day, and here it was. Here comes the pitch for $9,999.99. You can get all of this great information. And I remember I didn't have the 10 grand. Had to borrow it from my 401k. I didn't tell anybody that I was doing this because I knew the naysayers would talk me out of it, especially because Susie Orman was a big voice back then. And it was like, leave your money in your account. Don't let it, you've got to let the compound interest benefit you. And I had decided that very nervously I did have to borrow the money for my 401k, but I remember writing the check. I had a sweaty palm, my hand was shaking, I had the heart palpitations, but I had known, and I knew deep down that if you want effective change in your life, you have to do something different. And I could do all the free seminars that I wanted to, but if I didn't actually take the action, take the leap, it would not have led, that action would not have led to us talking today.
That's fascinating. Yeah. And so this was I know Robert Allen had the multiple streams of income. Was this a real estate focused seminar? I guess you said Millionaire Next Door, right?
Yep. It was definitely a real estate focused seminar. And,
Yep.
I had at least known enough that, and I live in San Diego, and I was a former pharmaceutical rep and medical device rep. So a lot of windshield time on the road a lot. And if anyone knows San Diego and they know La Jolla, California, it's this crystal jewel that these beautiful homes sit on top of these gorgeous cliffs overlooking the Pacific. And I was looking up at those homes and I thought, are they living up there? What do they know that I don't know? And as I started digging into it, I figured out that a lot of people, a lot of investors invest in real estate, and 2/3 of our net worth is determined by the equity that we have in our real estate that we own. And so that was my journey into real estate, was I wanted to live on top of the hill, which I now do.
Got it. Awesome. So then you just made, $5 or $10 million that year, and it was just super easy, and that was it, right?
No, that's cute.
Okay.
That is really cute. I can take you down to some of the challenging moments that I had.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, that's, let's dive right into the adversity. What were some of the pain points that you experienced?
The first one was when I was going, when I started in real estate as a portfolio advisor for a company based out of Memphis, I had 3 kids under the age of 5, and I was going through a pretty nasty divorce while I started this company. So there was definitely some relationship challenges there. Sure. I'll share a little, that's kind of an interesting story, but I want to get really to the first pain point, which was, I knew that as you're building a company, you don't start off, you're not profitable. Like, the money is not rolling in, you're really just scraping by. Yep. And, I remember one of the most pivotal moments was when I knew I had a little bit of money in my checking account. I had 2 at the time. And, I went to go buy groceries for my kids, and I swiped my debit card and it said declined. I was like, well, that's weird, because I do know that I have money in my account. So then I grabbed the other card, swiped that, declined. It's like, okay, something's up. Something's really up. So I left without the groceries. I came back to my house. I went online and I looked on my online banking statement, and tax levy. Yep. So
this was a IRS tax levy?
IRS.
Yep.
So
got it.
Just so you know, folks, when you actually say, hey, IRS, you can direct deposit my return into my account, the money can go the opposite way. I learned that, did not know that, but I learned that. And it was simply like an error on my part. I was on a payment plan to pay my taxes, because at that point, when you're starting a business, I was $40,000 in credit card debt. I was definitely just scraping by. I was commission only, no health benefits, because I left the W-2 world into the 1099 world. That was the first jump. And I couldn't afford my tax bill. So I was making monthly payments, and my debit card, I've learned this, don't use your debit card at the gas station, because your PIN number hangs out longer in that transaction. So it's easier to steal your information. So after 4 or 5 times of this happening to me, guess who I forgot to notify when I changed my debit card, where the IRS was making monthly payments. So I missed 3 months payments, didn't realize that I did that. And when I went to go to that Target one day to buy groceries, all my funds were siphoned. And I had to call my business partner and ask him to borrow $10,000 so that I could just get by until the next commission
day to day, which I imagine was not I don't know. I'm sure you knew your business partner well, but it's still not a fun thing to have to ask anybody, right? It's pretty humbling, I would imagine. So obviously there's some serious financial struggles at this point. And then you mentioned you're going through a divorce, and could you touch on the relationship side of things a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So this is very Jerry Springer-ish. So if you want to be entertained, buckle up, because here we go. Right. So I'm just going to condense it because I know we only have 45 minutes, and I'll give you just the gist of it. So to put things in perspective, gosh, I started in real estate in 2007, I want to say 6 or 7.
Okay.
And had gotten married in 2003. That was April 2003. I now affectionately refer to him as my husband. So my husband,
Nice.
5
Never heard
months
that one.
after we got married, he decided he was going on a business trip, and he had a one-night stand, and there was a pregnancy that was a result of that one-night stand.
Wow.
But he decided to keep it secret from me for 7 years. So in that 7-year period, I then had 3 children, brought them into the situation unbeknownst to me, what was about to unfold. And so here I am now, married with 3 kids. I now find out that my husband has a 7-year-old, so 2 years older than my oldest, right? And how I found out was he was interviewed because he looks like Obama. So he was interviewed in 2008. He was interviewed because Obama was elected that year. And so the woman who it was the baby mama, she had seen the newscast because it was syndicated and went across over to Georgia, where she resided with her daughter and his daughter. And so he had ignored her and avoided her for as long as he possibly could. He was going to ignore her for his entire life. And then my friend had set me up on this thing called Facebook at the time, which I had no idea about. My friend, she set me up, she set pictures up there, and I never even paid attention to it. And then one night, after the woman in Georgia had found out where he was working, and she was able to contact him. She was trying to reach him and say, "Hey, we've got this kid," and he knew about it the whole time, but anyway, he just ignored the child. And the baby mama, she's basically found me on Facebook after she saw the newscast, which was like, "Hey, I am so-and-so, and I work at the Del Mar Marriott in San Diego." And so she found him, reconnected with him. He still ignored her. She wasn't getting what she wanted out of him. So she found me on Facebook. And on August of 2010, that is the day that I had a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 2-month-old. And I had just found out that my husband had somebody else.
Wow. That is, I mean, obviously I'm going to do it no justice by anything I say. That is, we haven't had that story on the show yet. So that is wild. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Hey, you know what? Don't be sorry, because here's the thing. That was the motivation for me, because I'm such a loyal person. Like that was like the worst possible thing that could happen in order for me to make a very strong decision to leave the marriage, save the family home. That's why I went into real estate, was so that I could, I was going to straddle both the pharmaceutical world and the real estate world, so I could not disrupt my kids' lives as much and keep them in the family home with enough, money to have him exit. And so I was doing all this. I was building the business, and while going through a divorce with 3 kids under the age of 5, and knowing that there was this other child out there that was part of my kids' lives, but that had been hidden from me on purpose, deceitfully, for many, many years.
I mean, any one of those, just building a business is enough stress in and of itself. I mean, that is.
I'm Jersey tough, Jamie. Jersey tough. That's just how we're built.
Nice. Okay, so now how did that go? So that was August 2010, right? When you found out, and then walk us through the next few years.
Yeah, so that year, so I didn't have any family here in San Diego. Everyone was back east in Philly and Jersey. So I had to, and his sister was helping me take care of my kids while I was working. And so I had to figure out a way to be able to get him to exit. And so I spent a year, didn't tell anybody. I kept that a secret from my family, my friends, because I needed to strategize on how I could be able to make enough money to support myself and 3 kids without his support anymore. So that was a challenging year, but
I can imagine. So did you
led,
consider just going back to work at this point for an employer?
I was straddling. I was still straddling
Okay,
between
you were
pharmaceutical, and I was
got
just
it.
starting in the real estate space with my
Got
first
it.
company as a portfolio advisor. And then in
Got it.
2012, I met my business partners, Clayton and Lindsay, and we started Spartan Invest at that time. So between 2010 and 2012 I can't even tell you, it was such a blur because I was just studying real estate and working and changing diapers and taking care of kids. And so I would, get up at whatever, 6 in the morning, get the kids ready, get them off to where they needed to go. Then I'd come back and I'd work, and then I'd go pick them up from daycare or my former sister-in-law's house. I'd put them to bed, and then I'd work until 3 or 4 in the morning and wash, rinse, and repeat. And I did that for many, many years, till one day my daughter, who's now 15, she said, "Mom, you don't have to work until like 3 or 4 in the morning anymore. Why don't you do that?" And I said, "Because I don't have to at this point," but I did then. So you talk about sacrifice and having to do what you need to do. You just, when you're forced to do something, you just have to do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, humans are very resilient. We can find a way if there's enough of a reason, right? So did you have I mean, you mentioned it, the end goal was to get him out of your life and for you to be able to support your 3 kids. And was that, did you have like a 10-year goal with a plan, or was it just like day to day, I'm just going to grind this out? How did you approach it?
So it was really day to day, but I learned that it's a pay to play environment, especially if you don't come from a very wealthy family, which I did not. And so in order to be in the circles of the people that I wanted to be around, who were doing things better than me, bigger than me, I knew that I needed to be in those circles. And it was a question of, how do I get into those circles? And so it was, my first mastermind, I think, was like an investment of $2,500. And then my second mastermind was $10,000. And then I've been part of several masterminds, which were up to $50,000, to join for the year. And as I was having success, so I started up with the small ones, right? Like I didn't have $50,000 back then, when I had $40,000 in credit card debt, and we were just trying to get some sales. And I remember at one point, Clayton, my business partner, he called me up, and he's got this really cool, like calm demeanor in the way of delivering like really bad news. He's like, "Maureen, if we don't close," I think the number was 12. If we don't close 12 properties this quarter, we're probably going to have to shut the company down. And I was the only salesperson, and a one.
No pressure.
No pressure. And so, you figure out, you have to think, when you have to do it, when you have to figure out a way, you do. You do. Because guess what, Jamie? Nobody wakes up and says, I'm going to make my life really hard today. I'm going to challenge myself to be better and do better. It's only the life circumstances that are placed before you, where you realize you're either going to spiral up or spiral down. And I had 3 kids relying on me, so my only option was to spiral up.
Yeah, I love it. You had your why figured out, that's for sure. So you go in, so you join these mastermind groups, you're putting yourself in the position where opportunities can arise, right? And then you're obviously putting in the work as well, which is a piece that we like to gloss over sometimes, just as a society. But so you're both putting yourself intentionally in this position, but you're also putting in the day-to-day work. Sounds like, and then some. So how did the formation of Spartan Invest come to be? I mean, how did that all come about?
Yeah, I love this story too. I just want to say that there's serendipitously, really. But it is opportunity, it's preparation where an opportunity meet. And I was preparing myself for a really long time, just learning about, real estate and residential real estate and rental properties, and, how to make money. One of the guys that I met at that first webinar, the Robert Allen webinar, Randy Hasshauser, a really good friend of mine, still a good friend of mine. He invited me to a second mastermind, called Fortune Builders, which I went there, and that was a $25,000 investment to learn, their system. but Randy was the first one who bought, he invested in 2 rental properties. And I'm not the early adopter, guys. I'm not the one that's going to jump in head feet first, right? But I'm the one that's going, hey, Randy, how are those rental properties? Are they cash flowing?
Sure.
Are they making you money? You know? So I think
Yeah,
it got me out.
I'm like you. I'm not the guinea pig, but let somebody else, figure it out, and then I'll come behind them and maybe tweak something that but success leaves clues, I think. So why not pay attention to what's working for somebody else and then, put that into your life. So, okay, so he buys a couple, or does he buy a
Yep.
couple rental properties?
He
Okay.
did. And then for the Memphis group that I then wound up working for, but I wasn't
Okay.
working for them at the time. So he bought 2, and then I was watching him, and then I didn't have any money outside of my retirement accounts, but I had significant some money in my retirement account. So I learned about the non-recourse loan and self-directing IRA. And then I bought my first 2 rental properties because Randy was having success. I'm like, if he can do it, then I can do it. Like you said, success leaves clues.
Yeah.
And then how I actually got into turnkey rental properties and selling them was the company that I had bought 2 from in Memphis. I was a drug rep, so I had a lot of doctors at my disposal. And so I started talking to them. They hated talking about my drugs, but they loved talking about real estate and making and cash flow. So I just used that playground as a way to talk to these guys about what I was doing personally. And then I hosted an event that I paid for myself, got the hotel space, had the refreshments. I invited the company that I had bought properties from to see if they would come in and speak. They decided they would, much to my surprise and delight. I wound up selling 10 rental properties, had 30 people in the room, mostly doctors and their spouses. And then I wound up selling 10 properties that weekend. And I thought,
Wow.
oh my gosh, this is so cool.
So you needed to sell 12 and you sold 20, right? Or is that
well,
it? That was different.
Yeah. So it worked out. It
worked out. Got it. So,
It worked
but
out.
a couple of things I want to pull out of this before we move on are one, when you were, pharmaceutical rep starting off, I doubt you foresaw this event happening. And so my point is, you probably had days where you didn't feel like doing your pharmaceutical job, or it was a difficult, you didn't know why you were, doing this, having this role or developing these skills, but it ended up paying off in a way that you probably didn't foresee, right? So to the listener out there, I think it's important, do your job, do it well. It doesn't mean never question what you're doing and never take control of your career path, but you may be in a position that you don't necessarily love, but it may provide some fruit later on in a way that you don't foresee. And secondly, before you move on, is you were listening to the doctors, it sounds like, for what they were interested in. It wasn't just you throwing, your sales pitch at them. It was, they wanted to talk about passive income and real estate as opposed to the drugs.
True. Very true.
So just, that's another key thing, I think, is just to pay attention to the people around you and understand what their motivation is or what they're interested in. So, all right. So you have the event, you sell enough rental properties. And so how do things go from there?
This is where everything started to really start to cook,
Okay.
for me, because I took the initiative, I took action, I used my own money to put on this event so that I could, generate some sales. And you don't know, you guys, like, I didn't know how the outcome of that event was going to be, but I was willing to invest the time and the money, and then to bring in the resources that would help the event be worthwhile for these individuals to show up on a Saturday, right? When they've got families and things and they work Monday through Friday and they've got harrowing schedules, to seeing so many patients in a day. And so, but it was, that's where one of the pivotal moments was, because that's when you have that little moment of, I can do this. I just did this, right? Versus, I don't know if I can, because you can sit on the sidelines for so long going, I don't know if I can. But until you try, you don't know. And it could have failed, right? It could have been a failure, and nobody could have bought. But that was where I got that little taste of, if you just try. I always say, if you don't ASK, you don't GET. So I I know I was looking for the ask, and then I was able to get what was unexpected. I was
Mm,
hopeful, but
sure.
it was not guaranteed.
Yeah.
And so that was where, you know, that's where I dove in. I left the pharmaceutical world. I dove in headfirst into selling rental properties. And guess what, guys? I left a company car, company benefits, a six-figure salary with bonuses and company trips and all this fun stuff that you get in that world.
Hmm.
And, you know, to leave all of that to go commission only, no health benefits. And I got caught in that whole Obama era where if you didn't carry health insurance, even
Hmm.
privately, which was very expensive for me at the time and I couldn't afford it, I had
Hmm.
to, I think I paid 3 or 4 months and then I couldn't pay for the rest of the year.
Mm.
And so I went without health insurance. My kids went on their dad's plan, but I did not. And so, you know, that's risky. That's risky in
Sure.
and of itself. If
Absolutely.
something were to happen, I could have been a medical catastrophe and wiped me out financially. But it
Yeah.
was something I just had to do. Um, and then,
So
you know,
what would you say to the listener out there who maybe they're not in the exact same position, but they have a W-2 that or a commission based job, 1099 job, but they're not really working for themselves. And they have an inkling of starting a business. Now, we know it's not one size fits all. Every situation's different. But what would you say, should they start a side hustle and take it the long-term view, or just, you know, rip off the Band-Aid and jump in, or any thoughts there looking back?
I have learned this, that if you have a plan B, then you don't really execute on plan A,
Hmm,
right?
that's really
Because
good.
you've always got that little safe haven to go to.
It's an excuse, basically. An
Yeah, I think
excuse
it's an
not to give it
excuse.
your all.
And
Sure.
I I made that decision. I didn't care. I was willing to leave all of those benefits and stuff
Hmm.
behind because I wanted something different. And I will tell you, here's a thought that went through my mind. And because people ask me this, like, why did you do what you do? Or
Hmm.
why did I make that leap? And I thought, because one day when I turn 50, I don't want to have to wake up and ask permission from my boss. I didn't even want a boss, right? But have to
Hmm.
ask permission from my boss, most likely probably going to be younger than me, right? That would
Sure.
irritate me. To ask for 10 lousy vacation days to go take my kids somewhere. That I did not want that. And
Hmm.
so that was a big driving force. Honestly, people ask me, like, why'd you do that? I was like, okay, well, not for my kids, but I didn't want to wake up one day and have to ask permission to go take 10 vacation days to take my kids somewhere. I was like, I want
Sure.
to be in control of my world. And
Yeah.
I will say this is the last thing I would say. It's not like I did this on my own, right? I have two amazing business partners who they come to the table with extremely valuable skill sets that I don't have. Lindsay's the operator. She can put systems and processes together. Clayton is the visionary, the quantitative finance guy. So he could figure out, he did all the research and figured out, you know, all the pieces to the puzzle to make sure, okay, this is a pitfall. Here's what we do to avoid this. And then I'm the salesperson. I'm the storyteller. So those
Hmm.
three skill sets combined are wickedly
Hmm.
powerful. I did not do this on my
Yeah.
own by any means. And then it's only continued on because of the amazing talent that has been brought on. It's who you've got on your team that makes all the difference. It's people.
No, that's a really key piece. And it sounds like you all have a lot of synergy. And I know Spartan Invest has done very well. And we'll get into that. But how did you approach that? Was it just organically? You just, you know, kind of happened to start a business and the three of you happened to have different skill sets and got along famously? Or was it, oh, let's take personality tests and now I'm going to go look for a business partner? Because, you know, people approach this in a lot of different ways, and sometimes it works and other times it doesn't. So as far as finding a business partner, you know, not a deal partner, but an actual business partner,
Yeah.
how how did you approach that, and what lessons have you learned?
So they actually found me.
Okay.
And so, and here's the one of the key points I want to lead up to before I share that story
Yep.
is, had I not been developing my skills, had I not been working on my writing skills, my verbal skills, my real estate skills, you constantly have to be one-upping yourself. I read so many books. Like when I moved into my new house 4 years ago, most of my boxes were books, right? So I dove in I didn't go to a lot of parties. I spent a lot of times in Barnes and Noble. So develop your skill set, because someone is looking for your skill set. If you're not working on them, then they're going to pass you by, right? So work on your skill set. All right. So with that, how Clayton, Lindsay, and how I met my business partners is, Clayton is the researcher. He went on the road for 9 months, going to different cities, pulling courthouse records, something I would never do, right? Wow. But that's the way that his mind works. And so he was based in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. He and Lindsay had already partnered up, and they were flipping houses to the retail buyer. This is way before I showed up. They formed a company called Spartan Value Investors. But during the slow months, they wanted to figure out, is there a way that we can speed up sales? Can we keep the sales going through the slower months? And Clayton, in his little research way, when he was going, he went to Memphis, Tennessee, pulled courthouse records. I happened to be working for a company based in Memphis. He went to Nashville, Tennessee, Birmingham, Alabama, Atlanta, Georgia, and Jackson, Mississippi. He spent 9 months on the road pulling courthouse records. What he found through that research was there was a company he was astonished that was actually closing 60 properties a month. And that was the company that I was working for. So in a very condensed version, he went online to that company. He filled out a contact form. This is where serendipitously the universe conspired to bring us all together, because out of the 5 portfolio advisors he could have been assigned to, he was assigned to me. And that's how we met. And then he told Lindsay after our first initial call, he said, I had no intentions of wanting to buy a property, but after I talked to Maureen, I want to buy a property. And so I think we found our other co-founder. And that's how.
Wow. That's awesome. That's really cool. Okay. So, and that was, I think you said, well, actually,
that was in 2012.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. So, and then how has the company grown since then?
Oh, this is like my, so I have 4 children. I have my 3 teenagers, and then Spartan. Like, this is my other little baby. When people
which one do you like the most?
I love my kids. Could you imagine if I said that? Oh, my biggest is more important than my kids. People would like throwing stuff at the screen. No, it is, my kids are number one. But this has been to watch what we've been able to do, and not just the 3 of us, because we have a team of almost 80 people on payroll.
Wow.
And more that we employ through just our organization. We have gone from, year 1, 30 properties to now almost 2,100, just a little over 2,100. In that time period, we had about 350 doors a year. I think last year's revenue was about 60 million. And so, to go back from this, let me just transport you guys for 1 second. I'll just transport you guys for 1 second. Think about this. Because I started with, where I started in real estate, and that was at a seminar. But I was scared to death to write a $10,000 check to invest in myself, because I had to switch my mindset. It wasn't the scarcity mindset I had to operate from. I had to switch to the abundance mindset. And that is so hard. A really good book is Mindset by Carol Dweck. I'd highly suggest reading that book.
Okay.
But had I not written that $10,000 check to invest in myself, to learn about real estate, I would not have met Randy, which he then would have not introduced me to Fortune Builders, which then I would have not met the company that I bought properties from in Memphis, who then hired me, then found me, then Clayton and Lindsay found me through their online research, to being here present today. And I guess what, if I was fearful and I let fear stop me from writing that $10,000 check, which the money I did not have I had to borrow it from my 401k. But had I let fear stop me, I'd still probably be bouncing around from different pharmaceutical companies trying to figure out my way, because they're hiring, laying off all the time, right? And I would have been bounced around all over the place, versus
Hmm.
walking through the fire. I did walk on fire through Tony Robbins. Unlike the power within, I did that. Right. So everything that you want is on the other side of everything that you fear. It is just doing it anyway.
That's awesome. I mean, it's very easy for us now to look back and say, well, I mean, I'm sure, Maureen, you could write a $10,000 check today to go to one of those seminars. And I'm sure it sounds like you write larger checks for other seminars. But so it's easy to look back and say, well, obviously you should have done that, right? Because we have access to the results, and it certainly worked out. But yeah, at that time, man, there's nothing logical about that decision to write that check. I mean, that takes that's kudos to you. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, what would you say? Because there are people who write that check and then nothing really materializes, or they don't take action. What do you think the difference is there?
You gotta want it really bad.
Mhm.
It comes from that burning desire from within to really want to do something different. Really want to take action. I'm telling you, mine was I didn't want to wake up when I was 50 years old and ask for permission to take 10 days off of vacation with my kids. That thought bugged me.
Yeah, no, I can relate. Yeah, I've never, I work hard, and I think I was a decent employee, but at the end of the day, I'd rather work harder and have my own team and kind of, be able to take off whenever I want, have control of that. So that's awesome. So, so any other kind of ups and downs you want to discuss as far as I've got other questions, but for the last, say, 10 years with, looking back on the last 10 years, were there any other kind of low points or highlights you want to touch on?
Yeah, well, I would say, when you're in investment real estate and COVID arrives, I call it the pandemic. That's a whole nother podcast, right? But we didn't know, in March of 2020, we didn't even know if we were going to have a business. We didn't know how many of our residents were affected by job loss through the entire world being shut down.
Sure.
That was very scary for us.
Yeah.
We didn't know, but we thrived through that time period, because I then learned that, because I in real estate, I lived through the global financial meltdown of 2008.
Yeah.
Now, and then here we had the pandemic in 2020. And the thing that I learned is that people will pay for basic needs. Basic needs are food and shelter. And even if they have a situation that puts them, in a situation where it's hard for them to pay rent, or they can't pay their rent, or they find a way. There was the government stimulus, the stimmy checks, right, that have led us to our inflation at this particular point in time. That's another conversation. But it was what, was able to sustain people through that time period. And when the second wave of stimulus went out, instead of the money going directly to the Social Security number who made $75,000 or less and had dependents, the money went directly to the property managers and utility companies. I'm not sure if we would have survived that, right? Had that not been something that was implemented, and that was a whole cluster on how to actually get the money, because they had never dispersed $45 billion before through local states,
No.
But so we had to learn that was not fun. But we had investors to be responsible, responsible to and accountable to delivering results. So our team hustled. We collected almost $2 million in past rent, and we opened a lot of investors whole.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we even if the government does have a decent idea, it's not often implemented super well. But I actually was the PPP loan thing. Somebody used my name and my business information to obtain, I think it was $190,000. And I'd ended up having to close down that that particular company and moved my rentals over, and totally fraudulent. And PPP may have been a good idea, but it certainly wasn't. They had no idea how to actually implement it. But we'll leave that there and move on. I do have some rapid fire questions here, Maureen,
Sure.
if you're up for it.
I am. Let's go for it.
What's one thing that people misunderstand about you?
Oh, God, that's a good one. What do they misunderstand about me?
Put you on the spot.
I know I mean, it's a thought-provoking question. I would say I would say people that didn't know me before, I think they would underestimate me. I mean, you're someone that may appear to be sort of this bubbly, approachable, happy-go-lucky kind of gal, but deep down, I am fierce in my conviction of what I want and how I'm going to get it.
That's a great answer. If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self some advice, what would that be?
Oh, this is a good one. So I go back to my 18-year-old self, and I would say that everything that you have been programmed to believe since a young kid is wrong. You think about, and this goes back to this was a big struggle of mine. I grew up hearing, and I'm sure some other listeners this is going to resonate, but I grew up hearing money doesn't grow on trees, turn off the lights, we don't own the electric company. And if you have money, you've got in some nefarious, illegal, fraudulent type of way. So money was bad. Money was a bad thing for me when I was a kid. We didn't have it. Yeah, scarcity mindset. Right. And one day I thought, well, if my family did own the electric company, we would want everyone to keep the lights on. It makes us money. So you see the difference? It's like the scarcity mindset is what I grew up in. And to make that leap from scarcity to abundance, someone said this to me once. I don't remember who the coach was, but they said, Maureen, what you have programmed in your mind is erroneous. It's not right. And so, and this is going to date myself, I probably should say CD versus cassette tape, whatever. You have to take out that cassette tape, reprogram it with new wiring, new thoughts, put it back into your mind. And that is how I got I read many, many books on this. It wasn't just one book. And I was like, oh, I got it. Because I struggled. You struggled. You want to go back to the old way of thinking because that's what you were immersed in. And from ages 0 to 5, you have no filter. You just absorb whatever is the mindset around you. And that mindset was the result of my parents who grew up in the Depression. So they had a scarcity mindset. So I don't blame them. Right? This is not a blame thing. It's just understanding where it came from, but realizing that it was wrong.
That's really good. If you were given $10 million tomorrow, what would you do with it? Not saying you don't have $10 million already, but if you were given $10 million, no strings attached, what would you do with it?
I would probably I would invest in the financial literacy and education of our youth. I would start a school to teach them how to learn, how to understand how money works.
Awesome. So speaking of kind of just money and financial abundance, what does financial abundance look like for you? What does it mean to you right now?
It means living a worry-free financial life, whereas I used to have to worry about money all the time, and I don't have to. The thing that the most joy that I get is being able to take my kids to really cool places and do that together as a family. Which, when I was a kid, the biggest trip we had was going down to my grandma's house at the shore, the Jersey Shore, right? That was it. And that was all we did. There was no Disneyland or SeaWorld or trips to Europe or skiing or snowboard, none of that. Didn't have any of that. But that's what I get to do with my kids.
It's awesome. Sounds like you've come a long way from when your debit cards were declined and you couldn't pay your income taxes. So that's fantastic. Yeah. In your business, what's one challenge that you all are facing right now?
Yeah, the challenge is, I would say we got comfortable with the artificially low interest rates, which then made everybody want to buy real estate.
Sure.
And as the interest rates think about this, the interest rates doubled in less than 12 months in 2022. That is going to have a profound effect on sales. And so that has been our biggest challenge, has been maintaining the sales and growing the sales when you have such a huge obstacle in front of us. So what we did, we pivoted, because any good company leadership does, you got to pivot. And then, I guess we got comfortable. We just got lazy. We weren't really looking for those cash buyers. And we've made a valiant effort to bring on affiliates from France, Argentina, from London. So we went overseas and networked our little hearts out. And here we are now with some affiliate contracts in place with cash buyers, coming in. Because here's the thing, I don't want to be stuck in that same situation. I don't have control over the interest rates. They may go up, they may go down. When they go down, it's gangbusters. But when they go up, everyone gets scared and they sideline themselves. The real investors show up. They know the opportunity because, they believe what Warren Buffett said is, the 30-year fixed mortgage is the eighth wonder of the world, and it's a one-way bet, right? You win either way. If the interest rates go up and you're locked in at a 30-year fixed, you win. If they go down, you refinance, you win. So
it's true. Yeah, that's a great point. Speak to the potential client out there. What is we've talked around it and we talked about it earlier, but what does a deal look like? Or who do you walk us through kind of the beginning to the end of a deal?
Yeah, well, first it starts with the investor and what they're searching for, right? It's their mindset. And I would say the majority of our clients are usually demographically, they're between 40 and 60 years of age. I love it when I get to see a 20 or a 30-year-old come across because they've got a different mindset. Someone's influenced them in a positive way. If they're tired of working for the man or tired of the rat race, that they usually woke up, their 40s or 50s, and they're like, wow, I've got life insurance, or I've got health insurance that I need to cover in my old age. I'm afraid about living my money. I've got large expenses from college to all kinds of weddings, all kinds of things. And they start figuring out that they may not have enough income to be able to do all the things that they want to do for their family. So first is the mindset of the investor. And if that's you and you're looking for something bigger and better, and you want streams of, residual income coming in, then starting with single family rental properties is really simple because you don't need a large outlay of capital. Most of the properties are between, call it 100 and 180,000 for our rehabbed, and then 230 to 285 for our new construction. You just need 20% down of that. Don't need to be accredited. You just need to have some capital sitting somewhere that's inert, that's not earning more than inflation is eroding its value. If it's not earning more than, I'm not going to believe CPI. I don't really believe government reports, right? But CPI is whatever 5.1 right now. I'm going to double that, and let's call it 11%. So if your money, wherever it is now in your ETFs or your 401k or IRA, wherever it is, if it's not earning more than 11%, you're growing broke slowly. You've got to get it. You got to get it. Your capital's got to be earning more than inflation.
Well, and there's so many, and real estate just has so many benefits that we don't have time to go into here. But so somebody puts 20% down, then you help them with the loan, and then you help them with the property management, and it's a long-term stream of income for them. Is that how things look for the client?
Yeah, I mean, if someone's got anywhere between, I would say, $25,000 and $50,000, you can get started in your first rental property that would produce a residual income. If you're using leverage, around $3,000 a year. If you're buying, all cash, you're looking at maybe $10,000 per unit. You've got 5 of those units. That's $50,000 coming in per year. I mean, that's halfway to replacing some of your incomes, right?
Sure.
So
that's awesome.
That's the way you build it. You just do it one property at a time.
Love it. Now there are a decent number of what I would call shady turnkey operators out there. How do you all separate yourselves from them?
Well, you know what? It's called the the team of people that the leadership team,
Mhm.
and the mindset that we have and the intention that we have when we started Spartan. The intention is to create massive amounts of cash flow for ourselves and others in the single family space in the Southeast markets, and to help people build financial legacies. I don't have that mindset of I'm just going to, and there's a group that I just learned about from my Argentinian group who will remain nameless because
Mhm.
I'll tell you offline, but I'm not going to
Mhm.
shame them in
Mhm.
public. But this is a group that is targeting specifically offshore investors, captives or cash buyers, and whatever their intent was when they started their business
Mhm.
was to defraud and to steal from people.
Mhm.
We have always had the mindset of enriching people, because when you can live a financially worry-free life, not to worry about paying your bills because you've got steady streams of income coming in that cover your monthly expenses and then some, then you get to live your passionate life, because now, instead of being bogged down by the drudgery of your life, of your working life, now you can find your inspiration and contribute back to the world in a larger way. And that's just how we operate from a
Love
company.
that. Well, and if you're Spartan Invest has been doing this for, it sounds like over 10 years. So, there's got to be something there because, if you're a fraudulent group, I think you're going to be found out eventually. And it's not not going to be a long-term win-win scenario, which I know it is in your case.
I will say this. I have learned in business that if you do what you say you're going to do, you will have success. Most people do what they say. Most people say, and they don't do what they say they're going to do. We do the opposite.
Love that. Awesome. Maureen McCann, it's been fantastic chatting with you. You've dropped a ton of knowledge. Where can our listeners find you online?
Oh, you guys just find me. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jamie, for having me here. Hope I inspired my story. My Jerry Springer inspired story is motivated some people. But you guys can just go to our website, spartaninvest.com. You can find me there.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to throw in there before we sign off?
Just that gratitude is the best attitude to have. And no matter where you are in your life, find things that you can be grateful for, because it will, I think Tony Robbins says, how did he say it? Oh gosh, now I'm blanking on it. If you change your expectations for appreciation, then your whole life will change. So find the things in your life that you're grateful for. Even if it's, my son was telling me the other day, he saw a kid that was blind. He's like, Mom, I'm just grateful that I have eyesight, right? Grateful for the things that you have, the little things that you have, because that will change your mindset and keep you more in the positive state to keep you going forward.
I love that. That's awesome, Maureen. Well, thank you once again for spending this time with us, Maureen. It's been great. And to the listener out there, thank you for spending your most valuable resource with us, and that is your time. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.